Hey, okay, so I'm working on a set of louvered sliding doors here that are, this is a set of 3 here, and I'm making another set, but I'm going to put them over here, up in there. And this time I'm going to make them a little different because I'm going to use regular 2x4s instead of having to trim them down. And I'm going to be using these pressure treated 5/4 by 6 planks to form the louvers. And I'm going to do it all without having to rip each board down. It's going to be a lot less effort. But I do have to make a new jig, so I'll show you that right now. So I got to make a new jig. This is the old jig that I used for making all the louvers I was making. And this one's 3 inches wide. And now I need to make a new louver that's 3.5 inches, so I don't have to cut the 2x4s. And how the jig works, I use these brass inserts here, and they just simply go in these holes here. And then I have these drill bits that are sized to go into the opening here, and this serves to guide the bit straight. And so what I do is drill all these holes, and this is the series of holes for the louvers. Each louver gets 3 screws, and the screws are 3.25 inch number 9s with a Torx drive on them. And I also use some wood glue to hold it all together. But the 3 at the top here, 2 rows, that's where the 2 2x4s sit. And the first thing I did was, and I'll make these plans available online if you want, but I drew it in CAD and figured out, how many louvers I need, what's the spacing, the angle, all that jazz. I drew it out in CAD, and this is the header, the 2 top pieces. And this is a drop piece that conceals the leveling mechanism. And then the louvers begin, and I think there's 15 louvers going on down there. So I can use this piece of paper here to lay out the new jig. And this is the jig. It's a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I've ripped to exactly the width of a 2x4. And what I need to do is just start laying out these holes here, and I use the millimeter instead of the inch because it's a lot easier to deal with. So I'm going to get started laying this out. And what I do is I drill all the holes, and this is for the right side or whatever. And then if you want to go for the left side, flip it over and clamp it on the wood that way, and it would align all the louvers so they all are in agreement, and you don't have to really do any measurements. So I'm going to lay that out right now. So I'm going to begin to lay out the pattern, and I use a caliper whenever possible. Just makes it a lot easier. I can scribe a line here. Of course, I can't do it all. I'll have to go to a tape measure. So I'm just scribing the center lines of the holes. And it doesn't have to be precise, but this doesn't hurt if it is. So I've got the 2 center lines of my holes, and now I use 13 millimeters offset, quite a lot. And then the next one is 43.75. And I'll use a spring-loaded center punch just to establish my holes here. And I'm going to drill this on a drill press to get, I want the holes to be straight and true. So I'm just marking it off right now. So the next one, should have done that 13 while I had it dialed up. So you just have to lay out one side, and then with this jig you just simply flip it over to do the next side. Of course, there's a lot of different ways to come up with these numbers. So that's about all I can do. Well, let's see. So my next one's going to be 214. And I don't have to lay them all out. Just once I do a couple of these diagonals, then I can shift this board down and continue on, and I'll show you how that, so you don't have to do the entire jig. So let's see, the next one here is going to be 266. And the next one is 317. And inset is 4375. And 6926. So those are the holes for one slat. And then I just drop down 120 and the pattern begins again. And what I can do is just dial those numbers up that way instead of having to read it out. So each one of those is going to be 120. Doesn't seem right. There's this one, and that one there. It's on the wrong line there, that's what that is. Gotta keep your wits about you. So I'm just going to continue this pattern right on down the line here. I think this one's no good. I'm going to get rid of that line. This is my line. That's a slat. Yeah.
Did you take some of Carson's shorts with you?
Yeah, they're in that hat. That's right there on the bar.
Okay, I was just missing
They're right behind you. So this is another slat. It's good to go back and measure from the original, and that way, if you are introducing an error, it's not going to be compounded. So this is another slat here. there's a slat there. Looks like I can probably do one more here. So I came up with all these measurements in the CAD, so it's easier than trying to hold up the wood and figure it out. Just I did it all in CAD and then got my measurements that way. It's the most efficient way to work it out, I think. For me, anyway. Especially when it's hot outside and you want to try and do as much as you can in the air conditioning. So there we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slats. That's I think 15 is what the entire wall is going to use, so it's almost half before I have to relocate the jig. And so what I need to do now is I think drill these out. I think these are 1/2 inch holes. Let's see. Yeah, 1/2 inch holes. So all of these are going to get drilled out for a 1/2 inch hole. I'm going to try probably use a Forester bit or something that's clean. Because I had some hardwood here, some oak, and that worked out pretty good for a jig. This plywood's a little sketchy to use, but I think I can make it work. So that's the next thing. I'm going to have to drill all these out, and then we can begin to make the so I've got my jig here. It's laid out where the holes are. First thing I'm going to do is drill holes to all the way through to mark both sides. Next I'll switch over the bit to the 1/2 inch. So I've got a 1/2 inch wood bit in there, and I've got it set the limit so it won't break through all the way through the plywood. That way I can get a clean cut on both sides. So I want to stop and take a look at that. See, that didn't break through, so I can flip it over. And finish up the cut. And get a clean bored hole, so both edges are clean. There's a little plug in there that it will come out. See. There's a little washer plug there, but I can pop those out later. That's good. I want a clean hole on both sides to accurately hold my brass liners in place. I'm going to dump this out. Got a trash can here. I can try and catch some of this. Keep me from having to clean it all up. So now I have to go through and drill these holes and pop through here. Okay. Sort of had a little issue with this one, but I think I can repair that. I should have been clamping it, I guess. But I think I can still make it work. So in my haste to drill the holes, the drill bit got a little happy on this one and wallowed it out. I should have clamped this wood piece down, but I was just being lazy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix it. It's not a big deal. But you can see the metal guide doesn't, when it fits in there, it's kind of sloppy, whereas all the other ones, when it goes in, it's tighter. And so what I'm going to do is mix up some sawdust and some glue, form a filler for that. And I'm going to use sawdust, that really fine sawdust from my power miter saw, because the drilled sawdust I was using is a little too rough. So I'm just going to mix this up to make some wood filler. And before I put that in here, I'm going to put a light coating of Vaseline on the metal to keep it from sticking. And probably this one will end up being the tightest fitting dowel guide or drill guide of all of them. So I've got the I just need to get a little Vaseline and just a little bit on here to keep the glue from sticking. It probably won't stick anyway, but this will just be some added insurance. I can just go ahead and stick that down in there. And I'm just going to work this mixture down into the hole. And I need to do it from both sides. And of course I won't be using it today. I'm going to let this dry overnight. So I'm just using this penny to force it in there. And I'm also going to flip it over. And here it's pretty clean. I'm not going to mess with that side. It's a clean hole. It's just this side here that got a little funny. I'm going to push that down so it's straight. Let it dry. And tomorrow that'll be a tight fitting drill guide just like the rest of them. And then I can begin to assemble my louvers. So I've cut all the slats and the header and footer boards all to the same length. And I've got them organized. These are all 50 and 1/2 inches. And that's going to be the width of the slat and also the headers. So what I'm going to do, the headers are made up of two 2x4s. So I'm going to glue and screw these together. And these will act to support the sliding door hardware. I'm just using some exterior grade wood glue. And I'm just making use of my fence of my chop saw to get the wood to line up here. And I just check it for the flush on the end. I can feel it on each end. And I'm just going to run a couple of these construction screws. These are 2.5 inch screws. Just going to put a couple in. The hardware supports are going to be about maybe 12 inches in. So I'm going to put a screw maybe right in here. I don't want to get in. I don't want to put a screw anywhere where there's a chance to interfere with the hardware. I'm going to do one down here on the end. I'm going to avoid where the screw is going to be coming in and also avoid where the hardware will drill through. So right in here, about maybe 4 inches in, will be good. And I'm just using these screws to hold the wood in place. Until the glue sets up. So I've got 8 of these to do. There's a header and a footer on each door.
Need some ear protection. This thing's a little loud. So that takes care of the headers and the footers. We got some more over here, see? So I got to drill holes for the hanging hardware. It's 1/2 inch bit. I'm going to center it and offset it from the end by 5 inches. And the stroke of this drill press isn't enough to go all the way through with this bit, so I'm going to have to flip it over. But luckily I can just see where the point came through. Have to punch it through a little. So do this side here. Same thing, 5 inches off from the edge. and centered, which is 1 3/4 from the edge. There, we've got all the, I just have to do this on all 4 of the doors. This is the top header, and the bolt will go down through there. So I've got one of the headers installed, the first part of the door, and I'm going to build it, the doors right in place. So I've got this hanging, and I want to make sure that I have a little room to adjust upwards in case something sags or I find that it drags. But what I'm doing initially is setting it up so that I have a little bit of adjustment forward. And over here, I've screwed a 2x4 to the side, but it doesn't go all the way down to the concrete. But I have clamped another board to it there, right here. And so between the 2 boards here, I can make this adjustable. And so what I do is I have this spacer here that I can slip that under the board, and it'll be my spacer. I want that space off of the concrete, and I can just take this board, clamp the 2 together, and that gives me the overall length that this 2x4 needs to be. And so then I can take this board and this assembly and slide it all along to make sure it's going to clear the concrete, because the concrete may not be consistent as it travels this entire 20 feet. But so what I do is make it the shortest to So I've got the 2x4s here picked up that I'm going to be using. I'm just going to cut them to length, and I'm going to cut them to that length that I determined with my 2-piece measuring pole there. Set this up on here. I always prefer doing things without having to measure, if at all possible, because it just eliminates a lot of error. And it also eliminates a lot of eye strain with reading the tape, light, and all that great. But I don't need to read anything, I just need to transfer that line there. And I'm going to use this setup again, set it aside. It'll be used on all the doors. It'll be how I determine the length for all of them. So now this one's going into the knife. You know what, I'm doing the other one, left and right side, so I'm going to cut them both the same. And I'm also going to drill them at the same time. My drill bit is long enough to go through 2 of these and the guide, which is convenient. Okay, so now I've got the left and the right side. I'm going to set them over here and drill them. So I'll show you how this works. I've got the two things here. Here's my drill bit. It's long enough to go through both of those easily. And it also goes through the this guide bushing here. So, there's the guide bushings. And so it will go through, I'll show you here. Through that, and all that. So I'm gonna have to block that up off of the table. I don't want to drill into my table, so I'm gonna use these scraps to hold it up off my table. So this is my original jig, and this is the new and improved one. This one I made, it's designed differently. It's for these actual 2x4 sizes. And so when I clamp all this together, I want to be going through both of these pieces of wood at the same time. And I'm going to use a clamp like this to do it. So I can see the boards are a little bowed, so I'm going to have to screw those together. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to start right up here. So I'll load all three of those guides right in there. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah. So I've got the ends in agreement and the sides are in agreement. So I'm going to go ahead and drill that. And so that has drilled through both of them. And now what I'm going to do is run a screw in there to lock that together. First hole, I'm going to lock them together. Actually, I also want to lock this jig. So I'm going to use a washer on that. So I've got some washers and I've got another spacer. It's the same diameter as these, only it's not as tall. And I can use it to help lock this jig in place. That can slide in there. And hopefully this washer, need a smaller washer. So I've got a fender washer, and I've got another washer here that will keep that from going through the larger washer. Okay. So that's going to lock down my jig to this 2x4 here. I've got it clamped here. Happy with everything so far. So now I'm just going to continue to drill on. This is a hole I had to repair where my jig started dancing with the drill bit. Now, when I was making these louver doors before, I clamped this on the side of the frame, and so I'm doing it different this time. And I think it's going to be faster. For one, I'm drilling them both at the same time, so it's going to be half the holes. And the other thing is doing it on a bench. Got one stuck on there. Guess I need to get let the wood chips come out more than I have been. These three are for the front facing board. So that's the process. I just work my way down with this pattern here that repeats. So now I'm going to be repeating this pattern. And when I get to the end down here, what I'm going to do is disconnect it and move these holes down to align with those holes that I just drilled and run screws in there and continue on that way. And once I get these drilled, I can mount them onto the header. And then just install slats. These are where all the slats will be, right here. And they're positioned so that they block the view. They allow the air to flow, but they block the view. That's basically the process. Just continuing on down the line there. And when I get to the end, I'm going to switch this around because I've got these 6 holes to do on the bottom for the lower header. And the other thing I'll do is preload all these drilled holes with the screws. And the slats have already been cut to the same size as the header, so they should slide right in. And I'm going to also glue them. And probably support them in the middle too. Okay, so I've got all that drilled there. What I want to do is lock those together. Two boards together with a screw. So I'll come down here and use my clamp to set these in place. There's a slight disagreement between the two boards, but I think they'll be fine once they get pulled together. So now I can remove this one. And there's my jig. That piece there is a little tight. Got her out there. So now I come down here and I see where I've drilled. And I want to put that right in there. And I'm going to reuse this right here. Another screw. So that's going to maintain the registration there. Yeah, I'm also going to clamp that. And so these have been drilled, so now I'm just continuing on with the slat drilling down this way. Thinking I might try some WD-40 on the bit. Maybe it will keep the wood from sticking to it. So I'm also going to lock this one in place. Just with a screw. And I need to remove this dowel here. And so I just need to do a few more slats down this way. And it looks like I'll be doing 2 more slats. So I'm going to center this up in here. Use another screw on it. With a washer, I guess. One more slat here should do it. So now I just need to turn the jig around and put in these 6 holes. Like this. And they basically just go flush with the bottom.
Taking them off.
Okay. So here I flip the jig around. I'm doing the final 6 drills right here. Just flush and flush on the sides. This is for holding the bottom horizontal bar. Looks like I need some more battery. Okay, I got another battery here. Okay, so that's all the drilling for this door. Got 3 more to drill. Now I'm just going to remove all these screws that locked it together. And now it's time to put it up. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be building it in place because it will get very heavy. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get some screws loaded in it. So it's 6 on the top, 6 on the bottom on each side. I'm just getting the screws started. And I found it's best to use the top center first, sink it into the end, and then work from there. So I get 6 for this one too. So the screws I'm using are number 9 3 1/4 with a Torx bit. And you just have to be mindful of the pattern to the outside. I want the slats the same direction. And what I'm going to do is, once I get this frame screwed and glued, I'm going to leave it alone and let it fully dry before I start putting the slats in. That'll give me a chance to square it up and clamp it squared, you know. So this is going to be the outside. You can see there's the board, and then the slats go like that. Same for this one, there's the board, and then the slats go like that. So I'll sink this one in here first. Just using some exterior wood glue here. And this might be the tricky part. Let's see. I got the center screw sunk, and that helped me keep it balanced. Not quite happy with that alignment there. I'm going to try and do better. I like that one. Of course, it fell over, and the heads of the screws got into the dirt, the mud. So that might be an issue. We'll see. So what I want to do is make sure they're both in agreement. So I don't end up making a twisted board. And I've got a way to do that. I'm going to get some shims. So what I'm going to do to make sure these two are screwed together, right now I've just got one. I want to make sure they're perfectly plumb. So I'm going to shim one of these. So it's locked in place. Then I can check it for a level. So this one's perfectly plumb, and it's locked. It's not going to swing. Hopefully. Let's see. Let me check it. Okay. Try not to disturb it. I'll come over here and check this one. I've got them both plumb now, held with shims. This may have moved a little. Good, okay. So I'm gonna lock it in now. And so now I just screw all the rest of these in. There we go. Now I'm going to put the bottom in. And we're going to go ahead and load this side with the screws also. And then it's just a matter of gluing it. So now the next thing I need to do is measure it diagonally to make sure that it's square before it sets up and dries. I'm going to go ahead and put a screw in. I've got this diagonal that I'm going to just temporarily fix into place. Let's see here. You want to clamp it on the top. I'm going to clamp this diagonal piece on here, and then I might need to adjust it. And I'm going to temporarily run a screw in down here. And that just holds it. So now I can check it diagonally. So this one's 265.5. And this one's 264.5. So it's shorter this way than that way. So I need to pull it this way. That did not help it any. So I need to shift this. It's kind of hard to do because it's just kind of floating. What I need to do is pull it with, I'm going to pull it with a winch. So I ended up using this toe strap here to pull it into position. Since it's just kind of floating on hangers, it's kind of hard to impart any force on it. But I can pull on it, pull against it. Now I got 265. And 265. That's good. I'm going to let it dry. And then the next day I can go ahead and put the slats in. So I've got the frame put together and I've gone ahead and installed all the screws in the frame, as you can see here. And the next thing I'm going to do is adjust the hangers. I want to adjust where they are in relation to each other. So I'll show you on this one here what I mean by that. You can rotate the bolt here, and it adjusts the space, the gap between the two doors. And on this one, I'm hanging door centered directly under the rail, and so that means the flats are in line with these vertical pieces here. And then probably I'll do the same on this one, this inner door, but I do have the option to swing it away or close if I want to. But I'll probably go with I'm going to wait and see how the door hangs, but I can make that adjustment. But for now, I'm going to set these directly under the rail. And what you do is you run some screws in. Once you get this, this is a square, this is a D-shaped bolt. It's got 2 flats on it. And the washer's also got 2 flats and 4 holes. So once you get it where you want it, you can just run a few screws up in there, and that will set the angle. I'm going to do that now. I've got this one where I want it. I'm just using number 6 by 1/2 screws. And you can see there's 2 nuts. This nut is the set nut. I've got this set already at the height, and what I did is I ran the track all along the concrete, and I got it as close as I could, but not touching. And so that's where I want it. So I'm going to set these. Now I'm fixing the angle here with these screws, and then I can just tighten that nut against that one, and it'll lock it in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. I've got it set like I want it, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 screws in it. And these just keep the washer from rotating. And the washer is what controls the set of the door. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these nuts up. And I'll do that one over there. It's just a 3/4 inch wrench. I'm finding I don't even have to hold the other one, just the bottom one. This is held by the screws there. So this door's set in place. And I'm ready to start putting in the slats. You see it's got screws on both sides there. So the first board goes across the top. First thing I want to do is put in, I'm going to clamp these boards in to hold it up. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it. I'm gluing all of these in place and screwing. I've got all the slats already pre-cut. They're all the same width. And so it's just a matter of putting them in. drive that piece of wood up a little. Come over here and get this one. That'll give a lot of strength to it. And I'm probably going to run a screw or two from the top, but for now, just going to go ahead and populate all of it. So the first one will be down around here somewhere. Test fit it first. So also I see this one has a knot right here. So I'm going to turn it around this way so the exposed part is clean and not free. And what I'm also going to do is go ahead and get a measurement on this line, because I know it's going to be 120 centimeters down for the next one. And so once I get the first one, I can go ahead and run them all with a line and be pretty symmetrical with it. So we've got this first one positioned exactly like I want it, I think. And so now I'm spacing them at 120. So I know my next one's going to be 120 under that. And so that's the mark I'm setting my block to. I'll do the same on this one. So it should drop in. Before I put the glue on though, I'm just going to test fit it and check it. If there's any sort of bow, you want the bow up. And this one's got knots. I want those to the inside. need a hammer maybe for that one. All right, just setting in the second rail here. I've test fit it, it's a tight fit. So I just want to make sure the board doesn't stick out past the rail here or it'll catch as it slides past the next door. And also that it sits on the bottom. This one's ready to be installed. And also ran a screw in to hold this to keep it from slipping. I'm going to drop down to my next mark there. And I'm also going to just run a little screw in there. Screw will keep it from sliding. And I'm going to test fit the next board. Again, I'm looking for warps. This one bows that way, so I want the bow up. Otherwise, it'll just sag worse as it goes. So that's going to fit, I can see. I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on it. And it's going to require the hammer. Again, I want the bow up. So that's why you want to do the frame the day before and let that frame dry, because it's going to require some hammering. This one's ready. Another one here that's got the knot. I want that up like that. I can see she's going to go, so I'm going to go ahead and glue it. Liking that. This one's ready. that's pretty much the process. That will go, no problem. They're all cut to the same length, so they should fit. Just a matter, sometimes the wood's a little bowed. I'll move the camera outside so you can see from this side now. So I got a block here that's 120, so I no longer need to look at the marks. I just set this block on there, and that gives me the space.
doing?
Hey. So that's basically the process. I've got 3 more slats to install, and then that one will be done. I've got 4 more of those to do after that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, I've got 3 more slats to do on this this rail here. Get started doing that. I'm going to use my spacer here first to set my block. So that's my spacing. Now I can set in a slat here. Looks like the fit will be no problem. Got one left. So there's one of the 4 sliding doors that I'm building. That's the complete process. I've got to let it dry for several months before I can paint it, because I'm using pressure treated wood and I want it to fully dry. But that's the process. I'm going to move it out of the way and make a few more. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Please click the like and subscribe.